Hi, everyone. Welcome to my AECT poster regarding comparing the effectiveness of a traditional instructional model versus a flipped instructional model in an educator prep assessment class. I am going to go through this video with you today via a PowerPoint that I created for you all in conjunction with Dr. Jackie Kim, who is a professor at Georgia Southern University. This is just a really quick overview of the poster. It will be attached to the poster. You're welcome to go through the poster as well. This is just a summary in case you were passing by my poster session and wanted to just get a general overview of what the study was about. My course was at Georgia Southern. It was an assessment course that started in the fall of 2019. It was taught via a traditional instruction model with face-to-face students coming once a week for 2.5 hours. The course was very heavy with the content that was introduced to these new to the Department of Special Education, special ed majors. This was their first semester in the program. By about halfway through the class, students were very overwhelmed with the content. Most of the assignments required them to do some outside application of the content that was taught each week to them. So I basically introduced the new content during the week. They were given a project to complete as homework for the class. After several conversations with the students, I asked our Center for Teaching Excellence to come in and do an anonymous survey with our students, just to get some information on the effectiveness of the traditional model and get some opinions on a possible decision to flip the class the coming semester. Of note were a couple of the questions that they asked, and you can see by the responses, 100% of the students, when asked how they felt regarding mastering the content more completely if the class were designed with more hands-on instruction and practice during class time, they all 100% strongly agreed with that. Another question on the survey said, I would make time outside of class to complete learning activities designed to acquire content knowledge in order to enable more hands-on practice of the content during class. Both 100% of the students agreed or strongly agreed with that. So I completed an IRB after talking to both my mentor, Dr. Jackie Kim, who is included on this research study, and the dean of our department. And after talking to them, I completed an IRB and was given permission to complete a study comparing the effectiveness of traditional instruction versus flipped instruction. So in the first part of the study were my students in the fall 2019 class. I did a post-course survey with them compared to a post-course survey with the students who took the class in the spring. And you can see the numbers of the students there and their background prior to coming to my class. My research questions for the first part of the study were, how do the results compare on their test scores? I was very concerned regarding their test scores, and I wanted to see if the test scores in the traditional class changed when I flipped the course in the spring. In the class, there were supposed to have been 6 tests there were 6 tests in the fall and a final exam. But in the spring, we only were able to get through 2 of the tests before coronavirus hit, and we went home for the semester, and the flip study ended in that class. Additionally, we also compared post-course surveys to post-course surveys for both classes. And then in the second part of the study, in the spring course only, I did a pre-post-course survey to analyze the effectiveness of the flipped course method with them. So this slide just shows you a little of the differences between the two courses. Of course, the first one was taught in a traditional means. The second one included pre-course material. They read the chapter via a program called Perusal, which I'll show you in just a second. And also in that online ebook setting, they were asked each week to answer questions, and they answered them in an annotative way in which they inserted comments in the ebook itself, like on the right-hand column, in response to questions that were posed. And then they also were asked to read weekly PowerPoints prior to coming to class, take handwritten notes on the PowerPoint information, upload that to our LMS system. And then the trade-off was all of our time spent in class, 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 45 minutes actually, was spent completing the activities that the fall class had completed after class was over. So there was no out of class completion of projects in the spring class, as opposed to the flipped, of course. So these are the surveys that you can also see on the AECT poster right here. Real quickly, here's a look at perusal. You can see right here, this is the textbook. Students would highlight the information that they wanted to refer, and then they inserted comments in regard to the questions that were posed and where they found evidence of that in the text. Down below, I have images of the surveys, but because those images are so small, I've blown them up here so that you can see them. This is the part 1 post-course survey that I gave to the fall students as well as to the spring students. To what extent do you agree? At the beginning of this class, I felt well prepared to discuss the content. I expected that to be much different with the students in the flipped course because they had done so much work prior to coming to class. And then you can read the other questions throughout. I also, in the second part of the survey, gave a pre-course survey to those students. I wasn't able to give it to my fall course students, fall of 2019, because this study didn't start until towards the end of the fall semester. But I was able to give the spring semester students a pre-course survey to compare with those post-course survey questions. And you can see they're very much similar to the post-course survey. What did you prefer going into the class versus what did you prefer at the end of the course? As I'm nearing the end of my course with regard to my content knowledge, there has been little or no change in my understanding of the basics, a much deeper understanding or confidence that I could teach the course that I have learned to novices. So back to the PowerPoint real quickly. Our method for this study, you can see here, the hypothesis was that students who spend more time prior to class and receive additional time in class, having specific questions answered, will perform better on the higher order thinking type questions on the test. And also we felt that the survey results were going to be compared to analyze their preferences, what were their study efforts, and what extent was their learner participation. And then here, the second part was to see if there were any shifts in their perceptions. So for the statistical analysis of this study, we did an item by item comparison of their questions on their test, comparing the fall results with the spring results. The statistical analysis, our issue were that the numbers were low. So we did a non-parametric test for comparison, a Mann-Whitney U, which is the counterpart of the t-test that was used in part 1. In part 2, because we compared the same sample over time, we used a non-parametric test, a Wilcoxon, which is the counterpart of the paired sample t-test. You can see here the results showed that students reported that they felt that the flipped course in the spring of 2020 was more thought-provoking. We were only able to give 2 tests in the fall course. I'm sorry, 2 tests in the spring course because of coronavirus. The second test definitely showed stronger results, and that students performed much better actually on the second quiz than they had than the students in the fall. Our biggest takeaway from this was that we would continue the flipped instruction. That is what I'm doing at this time right now. I do not have any data from the current course that we are in simply because they have either agreed or not agreed to participate, but that information is with another researcher, and I will not have that access to that information until after this course has ended and the grades have been posted. Coronavirus did upset our study quite significantly, but we did get enough information from the spring to continue to warrant continued flipped instruction in the fall of 2020. So going forward, we are going to continue this study. So a few things just to take away from this. We felt like the preloaded course content was a benefit to this course. If you were going to flip your instruction, you want to make sure that you are realizing that you're shifting away from teacher talk to the actual application of the skills. So I don't lecture as much, of course. I do answer questions regarding the content. I do go back and re-instruct students on information that I want to make sure that they understand, so that when we spend the next several hours each week doing hands-on activities, they understand and are able to complete those engaging, often higher order thinking type activities. And then a couple other things is to make sure that students are able to have access to any type of pre-class assignment technology they might need. If they don't have access to the internet, perhaps your school can offer them a place to go to work on those skills, or the ability to check out computers or check out hotspots so that they can have internet. And then finally, that buy-in for me at the secondary level, it was very easy because they were very happy to not have to do the projects outside. They didn't have to choose focus students. They didn't have to complete assignments individually. They were able to have a classroom teacher in the room to ask questions as they were using the content or creating the formative or summative assessment tools, giving the standardized test, whatever the assignments were. I was in the room, so that was a lot of the buy-in. If you're trying to apply this in a K-12 setting, though, you might consider gamification strategies such as digital badges, AR interactions, any types of self-directed learning strategies or self-efficacy strategies. So just very quickly, I'll go back to my original slide here where I tell you you can contact us. This is our contact information, and you'll see down here at the bottom, there is our email address, and you are welcome to reach out at any time if you would like to contact us. Thank you so much for your time.